Any questions from anybody? Yeah.
What's the impact? Are the bills going to be lower?
Tim, you want to take
bills? And how is this going to help the community? I just want to say.
Yeah. So in terms of bill impact, we invest the money, and this infrastructure will be in service for 40 or 50 years. And effectively, the cost of the project will be spread out on customers' bills over 40 or 50 years. So it'll have some incremental impact, but not a significant amount. We're really focused on customer bills as we transition to this clean energy future. We certainly have to invest in things like make-ready infrastructure for charging and storage and transmission to move all the renewables that was discussed. So we want to do it efficiently and effectively, and this project's an example of that. And we're also looking out for the portion of our customers in the low income range, and we have a number of provisions to help them to ensure that as we transition to this clean energy future, there's no burden on them or no additional burden on what they'll have to carry.
This is a great project for Queens. This is wonderful. Very excited about it. I hope it comes to East Elmhurst, North Corona, and Jackson Heights, because we need it. But the thing is, the bills. Almost everything in the state is subsidized in some way. Where people are not put on payment plans, it's taken care of by the state. Is there any way to do that for the residents here? Because I got a bill the other day. I'm a resident here. I'm also chair of Community Board 3. My bill's going up 24% or 28%, and it hopefully will come down in 2 years. Now, I can pay it. I don't have any problem with that. I'm blessed. I feel it. But I have other residents that come to me. They can't pay it. And the tenants, that all comes down from the landlord for the bills to go up. So my quick question is there any way to subsidize this or to ask for a subsidy for the residents who will take the brunt of the bill here?
Yeah. So I'll first hit. So this will travel from here 6 miles to Corona, Queens, and the entire borough of Queens will benefit, as will the New York City grid. Our operators now have flexibility to move power at different times. So they're working 24/7. They're looking at a big mimic board to see how they should flow power. So the whole city's grid benefits from the reliability of this project. In terms of bills, we're really focused on it. The transition is going to take investment. If we're going to address climate change and transfer over from fossil fuel to clean generation, we've got to find new ways to move that power, and also to prepare the grid for electrification of heating and for EVs that plug in. So there are a number of programs we have that are focused on those who struggle the most to pay their bills. Last year, coming out of COVID, Governor Hochul and the state government provided some funding that we released. The first set of funding, a few $100 million, was aimed directly at low-income customers. There was a second phase of that, another few $100 million, that were focused on residential and small commercial to help them catch up from their COVID back bills. So really focused on that. We have a number of programs that we will work with customers on payment plans. So you can go on our site and self-select a payment plan. I want to pay this much up front, and I want to cover my balance over the next X number of months. And so we want to really work with customers who are struggling paying their bills. And the third piece is about 400,000 of our customers are on subsidies, either housing or food or transportation subsidies. They also sort of match across to our rates and subsidies we provide. And the subsidies are such that even as rates go up, the goal of the rate structure is such that their bill will represent about 6% of their income. So the energy burden, we call it, is about 6%. And even as rates go up, it tries to tether to that level. So we're focused on being efficient to keep costs out. If you look at a bill, about a third of the bill is what these folks do, deliver electrons and gas and steam. About a third is the generation, the making of the power. And we basically buy the power on behalf of our customers at no markup. We're just sort of making sure that there's sufficient power. And then the other third is property taxes, frankly. We pay the city about $2.2 billion a year in property taxes, and that is on customer bills, and then we remit it to the city. So we're working on all three things to help keep a keen eye on affordability for our customers, particularly those who struggle the most.
Well, thank you for focusing on that.
And there is a lot of focus amongst the team. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have.
Yeah, Michael Dorgan with the Queen's Post. That's all well and good, but in general, are prices going to increase, or stay the same, or decrease in the long term with the transition to green energy? That's, I think, what most people want to know.
Yeah. So I think in the early part there'll be more investment, and there's the potential that'll increase. But when you think about renewables, and after they're added, we don't need fuel to run them. The sun and the wind will run them, so it'll likely level off. We've taken a look at the broad impact of the clean energy transition, and if you looked at sort of GDP for the area, domestic product for the area, it doesn't change a whole lot from where we are now to where it will be. So sort of the system won't break under the weight of this transition. And ultimately, when we get the infrastructure built out, things will levelize. We won't be exposed to perturbations in fossil fuel costs. Oil goes up, the Ukraine occurs. We'll be more reliant on the sun and the wind to power. So the transition will cost some money, but it'll level out. And we don't think it'll be, particularly if we pay attention to those who struggle the most to pay the bills, we think it's a transition that's certainly worth doing. The other thing I'll add is, if you compare the energy transition cost to what I would call the do-nothing case, and we let climate change take off where we'd go otherwise, the costs of more frequent, more severe storms and flooding would outweigh the costs of proactively addressing it on the front end.
Thanks, everybody.
My second question, in terms of reliability then, California had blackouts. What's the reliability of this transition to green energy? What if we have a summer heat wave? We'll just put insurmountable pressure on the grid, and what's the backup plan if that does happen?
Really great question. We are incredible. I'm looking at the blue hats out here. We are incredibly focused on reliability, and I'll spend 30 seconds sort of describing our reliability relative to the nation. So in an area like this with an underground network, the way we measure reliability in our industry, we call it frequency of outage. How often do the lights go out? It's sort of a basic measure of how good the grid is performing. Our underground network system is 55 times more reliable than the national average. They go out of lights, so you'd expect to go out of lights about every 50 years on our grid system. And that excludes things like Superstorm Sandy or the Northeast blackout. Incredibly reliably. Our overhead system is about twice as reliable as the national average. We are focused on it. New Yorkers expect it, have grown accustomed to it, and that's exactly what we aim to deliver in this vertical city. So reliability, safety's job one, and Jen started there. Reliability, job two, and this team comes in every day, 24/7, focused on that. While we transition, we will remain keenly focused on that, and there are two issues on reliability that we need to focus on. The first is, as we build out more and more renewables, wind and solar, we need to make sure we have enough backup generation to fill in the gaps when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing. We call it dispatchable generation. So we need to make sure we have the balance and we don't get out ahead of ourselves and leave a gap. That has happened in other places. So keenly focused on that. There's a group in Albany called the New York Independent System Operator. They come in every day focused on that. They've got smart people. We understand that if we're going to transition, if the lights go out, it'll be a setback. So we're really wedded to that. And the second piece of reliability is the growth of consumption that I talked about. You're plugging in your vehicle now. You're heating your home with electricity. As the demand goes up, people are relying on electricity today. They'll be more reliant. So we'll have to build out the capacity of the grid as well. But keenly focused on it. A good question, but we're on it.
Maybe one more question.
So you mentioned this is the first of 2 or 3 projects in Queens. What's next?
So the first of 3 projects in the city. So Queens was first, and that coincided with the retirement of a peaker plant in Astoria. In 2025, several other peaker plants will retire because they won't make the emissions limits required by the DEC. So we're going to do a project in Brooklyn, very similar to this one, and we're going to do a project on Staten Island, very similar to this one. All of them with the same goal. Deliver reliably clean energy and allowing our operators the flexibility to operate on the hottest days of the year without the need for those peaker plants.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate Cawley.